It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Mines. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchende. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to get right into it because this past week was all about women. Yes, International Women's Day was celebrated in what is International Women's Month. And of course, if you are anywhere around the world, you would have noticed something somewhere, either on social media or on the news, traditional media, talking about a lot of women's issues and, just talking around what women want achieved. But how do they say it? The spanner was thrown in the works. In this part of the world, when the National Assembly did not consider 5 bills which were gender-related, and it has thrown up a lot of conversations as to what's next. Yes, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, I believe, has said, I think 3 of the bills or so are going to be put back on for reconsideration, and we're going to be starting off with that conversation here today. Hansatu Adegbite, who's the Executive Director of WIMBIZ, is here with me. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you, Ebuka.
And we're going to be joined in the course of the conversation, of course, later by another guest. But like I said, it was a very, I don't know what word to use, weird, I think that's a safe word, sort of events when the National Assembly, I'm not sure I have all the bills here, but I mean, some of the ones that stood out, the Indigenship Bill,
yes,
which was supposed to grant citizenship to foreign nationals who are married to Nigerian women. Yes. There's one of affirmative action on political parties. Yes. So how did you take this news? I mean, we have seen a lot of the protests and all of that, but were you surprised by this?
Ebuka, the truth of the matter is that, you know how when it's Christmas, you are just looking forward for your parents
just to collect the gifts.
To collect the gift and run home. They slapped us at the beginning of IWD with this unfortunate news. The truth of the matter is that we were surprised. We were surprised because a lot of work has gone into not just lobbying, advocating, appealing, anything that you can think of, we have done it with regards to the bill. And when I talk about we, I'm talking about women's group, the diplomatic corps, United Nations Women have helped. So many people have been involved in this process. And we were so sure that this time around, these bills were going to scale through. Yeah. So it was really a rude shock for all of us. And you can see that for the first time, a lot of us are uniting to make sure that our voices are heard, just to express our dissatisfaction with this. Yes.
I mean, like you said, the surprise is, I'm not surprised at your surprise because I did get some feelers, to the fact that there was, a lot of behind-the-scenes sort of work with the National Assembly to make sure that this was done right, Have you gotten any sort of feedback from the National Assembly saying why this was not, why these bills were not passed?
To be honest with you, they've been quite numb. When I say numb, I'm just saying that they've not been expressive on the why, especially from the Senate. In fact, the Senate has been very quiet on this. Well, the House of Representatives, I'm sure they have felt the discomfort of seeing the women protesting and have come out. But again, they have considered the 1 or 2. I will say from the past, it is so obvious, and we're now saying it because that is what we have realized, that there's a huge problem that our Nigerian men have with women sitting on the decision table of politics and governance in this nation. Yeah. And the why, I think maybe you'll have to invite some of them to this show so that we can find out why the National Assembly is highly against the passage of these bills.
Let's hone in on the bills themselves. The citizenship bill for one now. What did you want to achieve with that?
To me, the citizenship bill is even one of the lightest amongst this. But again, it's just the fairness of balance. We can't have a nation where we have over 101 million women that are in this nation, and every decision around women, around their lives, is always put at the back burner. We just wanted fair and equal representation as what pertains in every marital situation. You see half of our men going to America and so many other European countries marrying women to get citizens. We cannot even do the same for just our women that are bringing in these people to Nigeria. So we just wanted fairness. What is fair, and we're representing half of the nation.
Yeah. The indigenship one is very interesting for a lot of people. Most people didn't even know that was a thing, where even as a Nigerian, you're not considered an indigen of anywhere. because of marriage, you know. But that's also quite dicey for a lot of people because we've seen that play out a lot in our politics, you know, when maybe someone gets appointed as a minister from a certain state, they're like, oh, but she's from here.
That's true.
She only married here. Is she really an indigene and all of that, you know? How do you sort of explain this to the average Nigerian to understand why the indigenship bill was important or is important?
Well, you have sort of outlined what the main issue is.
Yeah.
It still boils back in many ways to leadership or politics. Because the truth of the matter is that if you remove the issue of politics and leadership, I'm very sure that that bill would have scaled through. It's just the fact that a lot of women in the past have run on various tickets and have won because their area of influence is from where their husbands are. You know, women get married, they leave their father's house, their community, they go to the man's community, they're there for 30 years. Of course, the environment and the community knows them because they've lived with them for 30 years. So if you remove the issue of politics from this thing, that bill will pass, I can assure you. So I think why it's very important is because it gives women an opportunity to sit at the table in leadership positions because of representation from another location.
Well, like I said, we're going to be joined by another guest, and we're joined now by Dr. Abiola Akiyode-Afolabi, who's the co-convener of the Women Manifesto. Thanks a lot for being here today, but I'll come to you. Let me just quickly, you say politics you think is the reason why, Hansatu. Is that the reason you think for all the other bills? Oh,
for all the other bills, gender on the agenda is a threat. You know, I've told you that this thing is about decision-making. From the foundation of Nigerian politics, a major mistake was made. When the constitution of this country was being developed, there was no woman on the committee that developed the constitution. And from that minute that mistake was made years ago, I think when the men made that, worked on that constitution, there were a lot of things they didn't put into consideration. Now, women have identified some of these things that were missing. And the National Assembly was fair enough to do a full constitution review. And at the end of the day, there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of input from so many people. And you will not now say all that work doesn't matter at this stage. So I think it's really beyond just politics. It's just the fact that this is a patriarchal nation. And so a large percentage of our, should I say politicians and even men in general, do not just believe that there are certain positions of leadership that women should occupy. So it's really beyond politics. Yeah. You've heard it from our president. We belong in the kitchen or the other room. And a lot of people also think in that regard.
Well, Dr. Abiola, thanks for joining us. So just picking up from where she stopped. Two-part question, first of all. Do you agree that, what do you think the bigger reason was? Politics or just the way the society is built, you know, with regards to patriarchy? And which one of the 5 bills do you think hurt you the most, if any?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. Politics and also the way, because politics is also our ways of governance. If we probably had like about 200 women in the House of Rep, maybe some of these issues would not actually be. So that's why I think politics here. Yeah. So meaning that people who are sitting around the table,
not enough representation.
Not enough representation to even be able to give us the kind of vote that we would talk about. Now the other one is also the patriarchal nature of the society. You know, the painful thing was also the disdain, the impunity within which those votes were done. You know, these bills were not seen as important. So you can see them laughing, no, yeah, yes, you know. It wasn't really something that, they didn't have like an understanding that's
serious and important.
Yes, that's a social justice issue. That it's an issue that is addressing historical injustices that have been on for many years. And that this is something that can help with emancipation, you know, of the women folk. So they didn't see it from that point of view. So they just saw it like, oh, these women again, I beg, throw them away, waiting they want again, you know, and all of that. So I would say it's a combination of both. And that's what we saw there. Now, in terms of the 5 bills, they're all very important because they talk about equality, representation, and what have you. How can we be in this country and we don't have equal citizenship rights? So the major fulcrum of being a citizen is about your identity. So what is being questioned with the Constitution is the identity of women, whether they are of equal status with the men in the country. Yeah. So this is, I could recall some years back, one woman came all the way from the US, and the husband was interested in coming to settle down in Nigeria. And they had asked us to help them in sorting that process. I went to the Ministry of Interior, and they said, no, this man can't come in. He has to pass through a process as if he's coming for business. So he cannot come in as a Niger husband, you know, and all of that. And that's the procedure as it stands. Then we said, okay, if that's the case, we went to court. We went to court to challenge that section 26 subsection 2. And the court told us the only way, we cannot make the constitution from the court. The only way you can amend this is when you go back to see that the constitution has been amended. So this conversation on citizenship has been there since 1999 as a big flaw in the constitutional, you know, framework of Nigeria. Yeah. So citizenship is a major issue. Indigenship, as you said, is another very important issue. And you can see it has affected. We had a case of the CJ of Abia State, who was married to, who was from Delta State, married to someone from Abia, and got to the level of becoming a CJ, likewise in Cross River, likewise in Adamawa State. And because of the issue of state of origin, you know, they were almost, I think it was the Cross River one that was able to sail through eventually. So, and we've had several, maybe even ministerial positions. If you remember, Okoje Wheeler is from Delta State. Awolowo Dosumu was also in that kind of, you know, situation. So this is an opportunity for the Constitution to address some of those issues. And these are issues that have been on for a while. So the issue of citizenship and indigeneship, they touch on the issue of identity of women in this country.
Which is such a basic right.
Which is a basic right. Which is a right that ordinarily should not be contested, you know, by anyone, not in this century.
Okay, I want to talk about, you know, the affirmative action one, with which is probably one of the most contentious. And as you talk politics, that always comes up, you know, and people don't understand why what they call tokenism, you know, should be law. Why should women get 35% representation? How does that 35% representation work? Who do we tell to stand aside so that women can get in? It seemed a little blurry for some people. How was that, or how is that supposed to work if it becomes law? Now, and why is that important? Now,
let me explain the affirmative action. I think the only contested affirmative action in Nigeria is the gender one. The rest are not contested. As we speak, there's conversation about where the presidency should come from. So they're saying, okay, North has had the presidency for a while, so let's come to Southwest. At the end of the day, they are going to come to a compromise and do the rotational stuff. That itself is affirmative action. Because the question is
just
why.
call it different in rotation or quota.
So the question is, why Southwest? And if you look at our university system, we have 3 ways of entering the university. Merit, there's merit. I know that there's educational disadvantage, and there's another set. So they have 3. So if you, when Lagos was still not a very vibrant state, if you score 200 and you're from Lagos, you would enter and study law. Whereas if you score 260 and you're from Ogun State or Anambra State, you will not be able to enter for law. It's a form of affirmative action. Affirmative action, what it does is that to look at where there has been historical injustices. Apartheid in South Africa, the way with which they used in responding to it was through affirmative action. Black Lives Matter is a form of affirmative action, saying that for reason that is not of women, for reason of the way we were born, for reason of stereotypes and all of that, women have suffered for so long. And there is not possible. Some of the people in strong world in political parties also know that even if we ask everyone to vote and there should be no rigging, nothing, women will not win. Because the way the system is made, it's not going to make it possible for them. They won't be able to have enough money. They won't be able to have enough things that will make them to win election. So the essence of affirmative action is to resolve. And it's not only strange to Nigeria. Rwanda, it's working in Rwanda. It's working in Uganda. It's working in Eritrea. So there are several, all the Scandinavia countries, you know. So it has worked in other places. So Nigeria cannot be an exception. And Nigeria signed to a lot of instruments. The Maputo Protocol was clear about affirmative action. President Obasanjo led the other African countries to agree that there should be affirmative action within every law in in Africa. So why is it then difficult? In Kenya of recent, they came up with what they call the gender rule. And that gender rule is a form of affirmative action, saying that 2/3 of their Senate should have women. And they went to the election. The men did not allow the women to get the 2/3. They went back to court. to sue them for...
So it's not strange, it's
Yes, so it's not strange. So it's not strange. And they are aware of it. And I can remember that during President Jonathan's time, 35% affirmative action was one of the things that the wife, was going around, and it became part of the national gender policy, of this country. So it's not strange. And the affirmative action that is being asked for on these gender bills, one, we are not even asking for 35%. The 101 seats that has been asked for is not up to 25. It's both Senate and House of Reps. Okay. It's like a consensus. Between, yes, they didn't want to go too far. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you in there. I just wanted to, because I know the Speaker of the House of Representatives has said they are going to reconsider 3 of these bills. Is that a light at the end of the tunnel for you, Hansatu?
Well, Ebuka, reconsideration does not mean they're voting it in. And that is why it is critical for us to continue to be on this matter until we actually see it conclusively voted on. Because they can reconsider it and still decide to vote against it. We don't have power over that. But I think the power we have is to educate more people to really understand what is at stake. And for me, one of the things that is at stake is that a lot of work has gone into this. And if they don't do this time around, if they don't write their name in the history books as that 9th assembly that got it right, they are going to leave it for the 10th or 11th or 12th assembly. And that is going to set us back as a nation. So we are together with Dr. Abiola and so many other women groups, and we will still keep talking, we will still keep making our voices heard, but we just need more Nigerians to understand that even though they are considering it...
Especially the National Assembly.
Especially the National Assembly. It is not enough until we actually see it signed into law.
Yeah. Are you hopeful, though? I mean, elections have already taken over the landscape. We're already hearing about conventions here and there, and that distraction. Are you hopeful that it's going to happen? Well, before May next year?
We will do our best to make sure that this thing remains on the table. Yeah. The Senate had actually voted for citizenship and indigenship. So we're also following up and analyzing, So the House of Rep now had gone back to say that they're going to release, hoping that they would be able to vote, for at least those 2. Then we have 3 left, which we are negotiating with them. So hoping so, because it looks like the House of Rep, they didn't, if you look at their pattern of voting, they didn't vote well at all. So meaning that, so we need to do more work, with the House of Rep. So we'll continue, women within the House of Rep, they are with us on this, so they would continue talking to their colleagues. Then we're also setting people from, women from different states. We're opening our networks and coalition from different states, to engage them on one-on-one, so that they don't come back to say we didn't lobby them enough. And what we are doing here is also part of the lobby. So thank you for your contribution to the discussion. So we will continue to lobby them until when they do. They said the votes will take place within 4 weeks. So we hope that within 4 weeks they will be able to, vote for the 5 bills. They claim that it's 4. That it's 4 because we told them it's 3 over 5, but they are claiming it's 4. So the only one that they said is in contention is the 101 seat. So let's see how far they can go.
That's a heavy one.
Yes, that's it. That's the heaviest one. So
that might roll into, like you said, 11, 12, 13. But I mean, like I was saying earlier before the show, I just felt that there were so many of these bills that made sense to just citizenship, indigenship. I mean, come on. But thanks a lot for joining us. I mean, time goes by so fast, and I wish you all the best. Nigerians are rooting for all of you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.